What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 318 of Opinions May Vary. I am your host, JR. Joining me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Alex.
Hi.
Alex, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hey, you know.
It is a pleasure. We're going to have some fun. You know why?
Why?
Two things. Because one, I wanted to start playing, like, you know, the most wonderful time of the year music.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And it would just make me sad, I guess, to play it. This whole episode's going to make me sad.
Right.
Because it means I have to recap my favorite thing, which means my favorite thing happened and my favorite thing is over.
Right.
Which is kind of a bummer. That's one of the reasons why this is going to be a lot of fun. The other reason is because we have Joe in studio here to do it with us. Joe, thank you for coming on.
It is my pleasure.
It's been a long... When was the last time you were on? I don't remember.
Might be on the PAX Recap last year.
Get out of town.
It's possible,
I
right?
think that's about right.
I think it is, yeah.
Abomination.
It's okay.
And,
I'm here now.
but we're going to have a lot of fun because there's a lot to talk about. Sadly, our usual partner in crime, our main man, Colin, could not join us today. He died 5 years ago. No. We were determined to put that joke in the episode. It didn't land.
It's okay.
My execution wasn't there. Colin, unfortunately, is feeling under the weather. He's not able to join us this week, but we are thinking of you, my man. Miss you so much. This is it's gonna be tough, but we'll get through it.
Feel better, buddy.
I'll try to say all the things that Colin would say, but I'm not.
I don't know.
I'm not that witty.
No,
I can't.
I'm not, definitely.
Just imagine I just said the funniest joke that you would never ever think of. There it is. Yeah.
Joe just put up Wolfpack, by the way.
I'll just play it off like I'm super cool too.
That's nice. That's nice.
But the big thing, if you hadn't caught on or maybe saw the title of the episode, we are talking about PAX. PAX East was 2 weekends ago, almost. It was like a week and a half ago, which already it feels like it was yesterday. But we went to PAX East as a group for the fourth time, I believe.
Yeah, that feels right.
Because Alex and I went that first time back in 2014.
And we've done 15 through 18, at least as JR, Colin, and myself. So,
Yep.
And then Alex has joined sometimes, and we've had other special guests from time to time.
We've had smatterings, some other people joining us. This year was the busiest year in terms of people going, like our group. We expanded, we gained some new members, and it was a good time. I don't even know where to start with this. Obviously, going into PAX every single year, every PAX, I always say, you know what I'm going to do this time? You know what I'm going to do this year? I'm going to play everything. I'm going to play all the games.
Bold.
I'm going to play so many games. I'm going to set aside my social awkwardness and anxieties, and I'm just going to go in and I'm going to do it. You know, it's a lot easier to say that than it is to actually commit to it.
To do the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because by the time, before I knew it, it was 5:00 in the afternoon on Saturday, and we were waiting for a friend of ours to get out of a panel to head home. And I was like, oh God, where did it go? It's gone. It's already, I missed it. Yeah. And it was right in front of me.
Did you print out any checklist for your scavenger hunt?
I did not print out any checklists for my scavenger hunts, which was, and I can't even make jokes about it because last year you arguably played more games than any of us because you had that scavenger hunt. So
especially more things that might not have caught somebody's attention. And
oh no, it was pretty diverse. Yeah. There was because I know I did some pretty big ones, some pretty major ones, and then some super small, way more independent, not traditional video game type games. It was way more storytelling and but yeah,
something that probably you wouldn't have touched.
The thing with that was that you guys know what you're doing and know what you're looking for and know how to have fun and already know so much about video games, and I walk in there going,
it's a reverse BCC for me because that's I need Alex as my Sherpa anytime I go to a comic book convention.
So I didn't want to hold you guys back, which is why I was like, this is my goal. I gave myself a goal. This is what I'll do.
And it was good.
And that's how I did it.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have played all those games. So I'm in the same boat, JR. I feel like if I went there with the intent to play all the games, if I didn't have a purpose on paper, I'd be like, I'll just look at this one.
Yeah. It's like the harder I try to play more games, the less games I play.
Well, it's hard not to be overwhelmed, too, because there's a lot of options. And floor-wise, it seemed exactly the same as 2017 was. Like, the amount of AAA space versus the amount of indie versus the amount of tabletop versus the amount of free play space. Basically the same, but it's intimidating how dense the amount of things you can do inside of there. And so you can just stand around and at any given time be looking at 50 different things that you could be doing. So it's what's going to get your attention.
This might be a stupid comparison, but when we go to the Big E and like if you see some weird fatty food that you might want to eat, don't wait and come back to it later because then I'll just lose it. So it's like, I want to get the 2-foot corn dog, I guess.
Don't eat the first thing you see, though.
Well, I better start.
But that's the mentality that you fall into.
Well, this is the exact PAX problem. It's either you eat the first thing you see, or...
And I know in the past when I've gone, it's like, if this game is open right now, my idea is I just got here, let's walk around and take everything in. When I come back, this game is full now.
Yep.
And I'm going to have to wait a half hour to play it. Whereas when I came by 2 hours ago, it was empty. I could walk right up to it. I should have taken that chance to walk right up to it.
I will say, and maybe it's just because we know how to navigate differently or where we focus our time has changed, but much more this year did I have somebody shoving a controller into my hand to play something, which was really exciting.
Because you were in the right place, I assume.
Right places, yeah. I think if I could look back at 2015, like the things that I knew were the Nintendo booth or the Behemoth booth or whatever, and these places are hugely packed all of the time. Blizzard booth, always packed. But now I almost just pass clean through those areas. I look, I observe, I wave, but it's like, I don't need to play Splatoon 2.
Sidestep the cosplayers, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And then I hit this like area, and it's not just indie games. It's not like the indie mega booth, but there are these slightly lesser known titles, and somebody just wants to put a controller in your hand and have an experience. Like the first game that I touched this year, and I think JR, you were with me. There were a couple of us together. It was called Super Slime Arena. And the thing that caught my attention was one person was holding a GameCube controller. Another person was holding a fishing reel controller. One person had the DJ Hero control pad in front of them. And when I was stopping and taking this in because I was super confused as to what was happening, the guy threw an Xbox 360 controller in my hand and was like, come on, play this. It's there's two things. You can jump and you can attack, and everything changes. Everything is a one-hit kill, and it changes constantly. And it was a mess to try to figure out what it was with that kind of hecticness. But it was so cool. And he was talking about accessibility and comfort, and that's why they tried to adapt all these different controllers. But it was such a cool thing to see, 8 people crowded around the screen, each holding every single person except for JR and I, who are holding Xbox 360 controllers, had a different controller in their hand. One person had an SNES. And that's not the point of the game. The point of the game is so many other things, but I love that idea of somebody just trying to get your attention with something like that.
A thing we never got to last year when I went, because I had asked you, of course I figured you would know everything, was a lot of these games, so many of the games were using Xbox controllers. And I was like, why is Xbox? Why not other controllers?
Because they're USB.
Yep.
And they're made by Microsoft, which is what most computers run.
And the Windows OS just has that built into the background where it's like, oh yeah, we read this controller. It's easy.
Back in the day when I had my 360 and I had my wired controller, my old reliable, no slow turn. That's what's up. You didn't want to. Xbox 360 controllers had a thing.
Yeah.
Most of them had something called slow turn, which is where if you move to the left or right when you're mostly the big thing was in Halo.
Okay.
You don't want a slow turn controller,
right?
Because if you have a slow turn controller, you're going to lag when you're trying to turn.
Right.
You're going to lose advantage.
Would you have to turn it twice, hit it twice or something?
No, it's just there was I can't remember if it just turned slower or if there was a moment of lag. Yeah,
it was that acceleration threshold.
Oh,
so when you move it to a certain length, it knows when to trigger through.
I got you now.
Yeah. My old reliable, I believe I tested it out and I believe it was a no slow, it's kind of a big deal. So, it's not that big of a deal, but
you had a 360 no slow.
Dude, that's actually a thing that people would say.
Yeah,
but. I used to plug it in my laptop all the time back in the day, quote unquote. I could play Hotline Miami and shit. But that game was, and they focused, they even said, it's so people who may be differently abled can still enjoy the game if they can't handle like an Xbox controller or a PlayStation controller. If you want to use a fishing reel, that from whatever game that was from, you can use it. There was someone playing this game with it. I saw it happen. I questioned. I was like, that's not real.
How'd they do?
This is a gimmick. I couldn't really tell what was happening.
It was hard to. It took probably 3 minutes of playing for me to figure out which character I was at any given time.
Okay.
And that's not an insult to the game. It's like this hectic, frantic fun. It was like
Is this it? Do I have it?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like 16-bit graphics, but basically, there's every time you die, you come back as a different slime, and every slime has a different attack, and every attack is a one-hit kill. That's basically how the guy sold me the game.
Okay.
And it's cool because when you die, it's like, okay, now I'm yellow. What does that mean? And all of a sudden, lightning bolts are attacking me, and I go, oh wait, my attack is a lightning bolt.
I have the lightning.
I am the lightning. And it was really cool. And I think it's out already. I think it's on Steam. It was like $15. Nifty game to check out, and it was a lot of fun. I want that game in a realm where I can get like 30 of my friends together.
Yeah.
I mean, even 4 of my friends, it would be fun, but like getting a room full of people
just
is the way
handing
that's
off.
meant to be played. Yeah.
You're the yellow one. Go.
There's also a deluxe edition.
What?
I think it comes with
extra
a soundtrack,
items.
maybe. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that went along with it. I
was
love
neat.
the graphics. That 16-bit, like the Scott Pilgrim video game. Like, God, those graphics just get me.
And that was right away too. We and it's almost like when you first go into PAX, it's like you almost avoid the game because it's like, no, I just got here. Give me a second.
Yeah.
But then you realize you're wasting precious time.
This is what we're here for.
And like I played a game within minutes as well. The speed, I think it was called Speed Racers or something like that. And it was a pretty basic game. There was 4 people on the screen. Each person had a controller, obviously, and you had like a grappling hook, like very minimalistic art and style. And the objective was to outrun your competition. You're like essentially running, it wasn't necessarily just straight to the right or straight to the left. You can go down and up and stuff like that. But you wanted to leave your competition behind because once you got off screen, you die. But the thing is, you can't go too fast because if you get ahead of everyone and you go off screen, you'll die too. So it was all about trying to screw over the people you're racing while not getting bombarded yourself. And it was just a neat, 5 minutes, like, this is a cool game. I died immediately.
So you can't get lapped.
You couldn't get lapped. Yeah. And like it's kind of a hard game to explain, but it was a lot of fun for like the 3 minutes that I played it. But I immediately felt like I was hogging a controller because I played like 3 rounds. Because they're like, when you die quickly, it kind of sucks.
I found this is a different thing. It's a generational issue. Whereas like I'll see someone younger than me playing one of these demos, and they will play it clear from beginning to end, as far as they can make it, until they get bored and give up, or until they beat the game. And I'm from either an arcade or like the demo.
You gave it your one try.
Nintendo's brand new in the mall, and they're selling games, and like you get one life, and then you move aside and let someone else play.
Yep.
And the guy running the shop will yell at you otherwise. And like that's what I'm used to. So like if I go through like 2 lives, I'm looking behind me like, is anyone gonna kick me out?
Am I still good?
How long? Like, is there a time limit? Because I've been on this thing 7 minutes. Is that too long?
And we did get hands on those controllers pretty quick, but I think I played 2 rounds of it before I dropped out, and it was fun to like have and play through. And the grapple mechanic is fun, like you said. Like the graphics are a little on the simplistic side, but like so funny. Like I think somebody was like a shark head, and somebody else was a chicken, like running around in a chicken suit. So it had like that nice, funny vibe and nice competitive. It's a game that's built for that kind of setting because you do want to pass the controller off quick and watch other people play. Yeah, that was a fun one though.
It was neat. It was a good way to like break it in. Like, okay, I'm at PAX and I'm playing a game right now, again, I already said a good way to break it in. It's like, just getting that first one out of the way. Now I can go play everything else.
Get your feet wet.
Exactly.
Test the water.
That's what it is. That's what I should have
How
said.
is it? Come on in. It's nice.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
and
full of video
for the
games.
first 30 minutes, and I love this about Friday. I've commented on it in previous episodes. Like Friday, that beginning hour, 2 hours, even 3 hours, the floor is the emptiest it's going to be. Controllers are as available as they're going to be. There's a lot of opportunity to play, and this might be the first year where I actually took advantage of that. Like, like wholeheartedly, didn't just like peek around. It's the controllers open, jump on it.
And that's like one person who took pretty hardcore advantage of that was Ken. Ken came with us this year. He was on a couple weeks ago. He did go to PAX last year. It was his first time. It was his first time kind of coming like as a part of our group, I guess you want to say, this year. And right away, we lost him within 2 minutes because we came down the main stairs, from the lobby.
Yeah.
He saw Soul Calibur and he was gone.
And that's not an exaggeration. Like, he was probably less than 50 feet away from the stairs. Yeah.
And it was, oh, hey, I got to go play Soul Calibur. Bye. And it's like, we'll see Ken later. And like, it was nice because like, I always want the group to stay together.
Yeah.
I always like being with, like, hey, no, let's do it as a group. But I get it.
We were also way too big of a group this year.
Yeah,
So we were, it was the core three, the JR, Colin, Joe, but we also had Bob, who has been on many episodes. Correct?
Yeah. Good friend of the show, Mr. Bob. He's a very talented photographer, videographer, and it was his first time as well.
And he hung.
He did.
Yeah, he knew how to work the space and find things to do, and knew when to step back and like watch. It was nice being like guiding him around.
Yep.
We had Ken, of course, who it was his second year doing it, and he's a natural when it comes to hitting these things. And then I brought a friend, Kevin, too. But because of that, we fractured and split into these groups of like 2, 3, 4, 5. But we'd always come together like every hour.
Yep.
And try to reconnect. But yeah, that would have been a hard group to try to hold on to.
Yeah.
For
As of March of this year, there isn't a release date for Soul Calibur. But it is expected to come out in 2018.
Right. He said it was a lot of fun. He said he, in typical Ken fashion, spent the first couple rounds, trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
But I guess the guy he was playing with was going hard the entire time. So then Ken had to give him the business. And like he spent the first couple rounds getting bopped, and then Ken came back, I believe, and took him out.
that sounds about right.
But he said it was.
Does he say who he uses? Does he have a name?
He told me, but I can't remember.
Okay.
Link.
Keelik. I don't know. I just from what I hear, Keelik is one of my friends says he's the best, and other people say he's cheap little.
He has the giant staff. It's like 7 feet long. It's like, you can't get.
He's the Doslim of Soul Calibur.
Yeah.
I haven't played a lot of fighting games since 1994.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. Other games. I want to stick on this topic. I figure we'll cover some games.
Yeah.
We'll cover some panels, and then we'll just cover our general thoughts. I have a lot of thinking thoughts about PAX, but I did want to talk about the games because that is the obviously the kind of the forefront of the show are the games.
We had a really fun co-op experience.
I am so excited to talk about this godforsaken game.
Is that the game that you were thinking about?
It must be.
It's called With Friends Like
These.
These.
Like one of the 3 games. Yeah.
Well, and that's
I'm gonna say that one more time.
Oh, With Friends Like These.
That's what it is. I didn't want it because I interrupted you.
Oh, no problem.
And I want the game to get proper cred because I loved this game.
Oh.
And it's just one of those games that it didn't have an enormous display. I was I was standing around talking with people. Like we bumped into our friend Alicia. We were talking, and then you were like, "Hey, this game looks really neat. You want to try it with me?" And I was like, "Why not?"
Yep.
And it blew me away.
It was beautiful. Like it is. If anyone's ever played, oh gosh, what was that? Patapon on the PSP. There are a couple other games that have this like highly shadow art style, but then the colors pop. It's just a really engaging art style. It's being made by an Australian company, I want to say, but it's actually just an Australian couple. It's a husband and wife. And I might be oversimplifying, but basically she does all the art design, the music design, and he does all the programming. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap, but it's just these two people making this game. And it is, hands down, one of the most fun game experiences I've had at any PAX that we've had.
Not only was the game a lot of fun, but the husband, and I asked him his name too, and I cannot remember. It's probably on the internet somewhere. But he was so just, and you'll have to excuse my very basic, breakdown. He was just so chill. He was like, he didn't kill us with info.
Nope.
It was, we're playing a little bit. He'd point something out. That was a fun part, whatever. If we had a question, hey, how'd you come up with this? Like, he was more, and every time we compliment him, he always said cheers.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was just really neat. And one of the nicest people that I've had the pleasure of meeting, like at a PAX in general, not just the one show.
And we interrogated him about this game, and it was because it has such a fun cartoony style. So to talk a little bit about the game, he says you operate as a single unit, even though it's a cooperative game, and one of you tends to be a little bigger, and then the other one is attached to little. And he said that the pink one is air, and the blue one is water. So he calls it your airship and your water ship.
Okay.
Even though you are one connected unit, and depending on what the color tint of the background is, if you have a light pink color tint, then the pink person is in control of moving and the blue person is in control of shooting. I know it sounds a little complicated, but it's actually not that hard. You pick it up super quickly. And then if it's a blue tinted background, blue gets to move and pink gets to shoot. And all throughout this game, you're constantly shifting in these backgrounds and changing who's moving and who's controlling the gun piece. And enemies require like multiple colors to be shot.
As you guys were like talking about these games, I'm trying to look them up so I could take this ride with you. At first it looked like you could almost choose who's in control, like there's some games, or like I think Ibn Ab was one that my niece and I would play on the tablet or whatever, and you would have to like choose or willingly switch off who's in control of what, and I was watching that and I was like, okay, well, you could just fight over that, but the background makes a lot of sense now.
The background tint, it's this thing where it's hard to describe the control feeling of if you're moving the ship, but you need to be able to attack, you have to drive yourself into a different color background so that you can switch over to your gun and then the other person takes over. I can see siblings going and killing themselves, or like fighting with each other, like over how this game works and these mechanics. But like when you play with somebody you've played games with for a while and it starts to click. There was a clip that you were watching just a little while ago, Alex, where there was a creature chasing the ship.
That was like the boss of the demo.
And the color background changes the entire time. So you have to get to this point where right when the color's about to switch and you're moving, you're already pushing the stick the other direction so that your gun will be facing the right way. It was a blast.
It was so fun. I was watching people, like I was actually watching, before we got to play, we were in line, and there was two people playing against the boss. And I saw that they kept dying because they would be so anxious to start shooting, or that they were shooting, they weren't ready for the color change. So when the color changed and they were actually driving, they were still holding the direction toward the monster to shoot at it. So they would lose time.
Or you'd start driving back towards the monster.
Exactly. But like, so I saw that happening and I was like, okay, I know what to do here. And Joe, I didn't even, like, we just did it. It was unbelievable.
There would be moments where it's like, can you? And then it would be, yep, got it.
Yep. It was just one of those moments where everything clicked. The game was simplistic and extremely fun. And it was just, what's the word I'm looking for? Enhanced by the kindness and the overall just demeanor of the developer.
So the developer that we got to talk to, his name was Craig Brown, and they operate out of Canberra, Australia. Probably saying that wrong, but that's okay. And then his wife, Nicole Lawson, is the one that did a lot of the design work. And he had mentioned, we didn't get a chance to talk to her, but a lot of the design is influenced off of Rocco's Modern Life, which, like, he said that, and I just immediately looked over at JR, because I know it's one of
his... Big fan of Rocco. What, do you have the name of the studio?
Yes, it's Shy Kids Club, I
believe.
say.
Yeah, I have the business card.
Shy Kids Club.
But I forgot it because I'm an idiot.
I had to search for it with friends like these PAX, because otherwise
Skyrim,
an achievement for Skyrim keeps coming up.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Good pull from both of you.
Yeah. Yep.
It's supposed to come out, he said, either 2018 or maybe early 2019, but I highly recommend keeping an eye on it because it was a blast.
And
it's nice hearing about games where like you have to have friends to play them.
Yeah.
Or it helps at least. It's
because you can play it one player.
Oh really?
Yeah.
But it changes if you're talking about a dual joystick, the sticks change control.
Okay.
Which is mind blowing. Or you can just play a simple version, but you could kind of see when he said that, he's like, but why would you?
And it sucks because his card for the game is like one of the larger like flyer sort of type deals. It showed like the different control schemes that you can use, like the hard version, the easy version, and I put it in my back pocket and it vanished from my back pocket.
I think I have one of those, so I'm happy to bring it around and share it again.
Yep. That was one of the highlights, if not the highlight of my game playing experience at PAX this year. Very simple, didn't get to play the new amazing AAA game. It is what it is. I'll if I want to play it, I'll play it later. But just that one experience, and that was within the first hour on Friday.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the big AAAs that were there? Like besides Soul Calibur, and which I believe it's up to 6 now.
Yeah,
I just
that feels right. I didn't spend a ton of time in the AAA area.
Last year, Prey was real big, and the Switch had a booth, but they were still like, the Switch is kind of new.
This might be, it was like a month old at that point, so a lot of people still hadn't played it. There was a big setup, and maybe this is true for last year, I just didn't notice it, but PUBG was all over the place.
PUBG had a huge like free play area. You can check that. I took a lot of pictures of it. It's going to be in our photo album up on Facebook, facebook.com.
Was my game back?
/OMVPOC. Facebook.com/opinions may vary. Your game.
Yeah.
Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight did have a booth there. I actually didn't. I saw it in the distance. They had their big banner up like last year, but I actually never got to that portion of the floor.
Okay.
One of the big ones, Blizzard was back this year. It wasn't just a merch booth. They had their merch booth, obviously, which was just annihilated all weekend. But they did have a presence in terms of games again. I almost said pimping. No, we're probably not going to use that one. Promoting. I'm very short of words today. Promoting their new Warcraft expansion. Exactly. That's what we do. Promoting their new Warcraft expansion, Battle for Azeroth, which to Warcraft people that probably means something. For me, it's just, I know they say Azeroth in the South Park episode of World of Warcraft, but they had a huge presence. Obviously, a lot of Overwatch stuff, a lot of Overwatch merch, things of that nature. Other big games, Nintendo did have their booth set up. They had like a kind of like a 2-stage tournament thing. Like 4 switches on one side, 4 switches on the other side. Teams of 4 can go against each other playing Splatoon. I believe Just Beats and Shapes was at the Switch booth.
I did not see that. Oh,
it's
that's
coming
a
to the
shame.
Switch. I saw it on one of the TVs for like just a moment.
That game has been in development for the longest time, and the guy who develops it
And
doesn't care.
Yeah,
He's like, it's been a long time, man.
The game that's gonna come out eventually.
Right, but they made a good game, and so that game would be perfect for the Switch. Because you could do a single controller with it. Nice, simple. Go listen to last year's episode. That game was amazing.
Just Beats and Shapes was, or is it just Shapes and Beats? I can't remember.
It's just Shapes and Beats, man.
That's what it is.
Don't touch the pink.
You could take a couple different ways.
Yep.
Dauntless was there last year, I believe. They had a big booth again. There was a lot of like website booths, like Twitch. Twitch's presence there has grown every year. This year was no exception. They have their Twitch lounge,
right,
where you can go and hang out. And people, I'm a Twitch partner. I'm special.
They were on par with like some of the when you watch competitions happening booths from last year. They were on par with that size. It was a lot.
Twitch was huge. They were right in the center of the main floor. They had like an interview space. They had just a hangout space. Discord had a booth, like a big one, which I don't think I've seen them there before in that capacity, at least.
Definitely not in that capacity. I think they have been there before, but they were massive.
Yep. They had a big presence, which even to this day, I'm not quite sure what Discord is. It's a chat thing, right?
I wish you didn't bring it up because I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's you talk with it, I think. It's a chat. You use it to chat.
You can use it to get extra damage on your people when you're playing Zenyatta?
Exactly. Yes, that's what it is.
That's what a Discord is, yeah.
Astro had a big presence. I'm wearing Astros right now. It's not a big deal. It is what it is. I'm not trying to brag, but I'm wearing Astros. But other than that, Xbox, I can't remember what their big game was this year. They had a big setup. And in past years, I know it's been Halo. I'm going through my pictures right now.
I don't
think I got any snaps of it.
It's hard to say because, like I said, the layout was largely the same, but I don't feel like there must be a limitation that the PAX folks are doing on like the AAA booths from keeping them from overgrowing, or maybe they just are treating it like when I walked by Nintendo, their big thing wasn't necessarily selling their games. It was like having these mini competitions and getting folks to come over and engage with the product, which I love. Like that is a much better setup for me than the wait 3 hours in line to try a new game, which that still exists. There's still opportunities for that, but it's much more about why don't you get out and why don't you come in and have a funny thing to hear. I just think that it worked a lot better for.
And they didn't just sit there and sling their Super NES retro consoles?
Nope.
What?
Nope.
Surprisingly not. Who knew?
I will say this was the only place where I had a little bit of merch booth weakness. I am 8-bit, which among the many cool merchandise things they do, they make records for video games. So like the Journey soundtrack that's on vinyl, I picked up from them. I looked at Alex specifically because I know that's a good one.
Yeah.
They had a really cool like orchestral Zelda collection that was really hard to turn down. But I did snag their Steven Universe album because that is so
because.
Yeah.
Facebook also had a big presence. They had a big booth for Facebook gaming. Very similar. If you hid the names on each of the booth and you said one of these is Facebook and one of them is Twitch, it would have taken me a second. I probably would have gotten it eventually for the colors. Yeah. But Facebook gaming had a very similar booth to like the Twitch lounge, kind of just hang out. There's a couple TVs. They had Oculus because Facebook owns Oculus.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't know that either.
Yep. And so you could play some VR. VR has grown more and more throughout the years, as we all know.
Well, you could buy headsets at closing Toys R Us's now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you can.
We've been talking a lot about the digital video games. I don't want to move past that if there's other things to touch on.
Well, I was going to say we can talk about other games that we have played, regardless of whether they're digital, tabletop, because we did play. You played. You'll have to excuse my language here. You played a shitload of tabletop games.
I lived in tabletop.
Every time I found Joe, or every time it was, hey, where are you? It's like, what? Tabletop? God, why are you asking?
And, like, look for the purple sign that says human arrow, or look for the this. It was. I lived in that area. My buddy Kevin, who it was his first time out, he's a big board game tabletop person.
Kevin, board game guy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Huge.
And the fact that he had like some of the most expansive board game knowledge like ever.
It was freaky.
Yeah. But
wait, hang on. What does board game knowledge count as?
It's more encyclopedic. Like he knows every game and he can tell you about it.
And if you're trying to explain a game that he may not have heard of, if you just relate it to something, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Because like I can just put that together. It's like this meets this. So okay, yeah, I know exactly what that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It was a lot of fun.
And he also brought some massive. He brought some both big and small games.
Yeah,
he played some simple card games in the hotel.
What was the Gloom one? Gloomhaven?
I don't remember.
I think it's called Gloomhaven. There's a bunch of versions of it, but basically you're trying to like destroy the other players, and it has this cool transparent card mechanic where you like lay cards on top of your cards and it assigns point values and stuff
stack
like
abilities and stuff.
It was really cool.
It was neat.
But that wasn't at PAX.
It was a fun hotel game, yeah. But at PAX, we played some games.
So jumping through a couple that really, really stood out. I went back to the Dragoon booth, which, again, you can hear me rave about that in the PAX 2017 episode. So I won't go into it right now, but Dragoon is amazing. It is a $90 game, which is intimidating and kind of hard to sell people on that.
Yeah.
But they are coming out with a standard edition because the $90 version has these awesome metal pieces that are literally plated in gold and stuff like that. You can't blame them for putting the price tag on it, but they're coming out with plastic pieces for a $50 version this summer. I love Dragoon. Everyone should check out Dragoon. And it is worth noting, too, that somebody that I brought up on a Boston Comic-Con episode in 2015, Crested Creations, she makes plushies and stuff like that.
Okay.
She did their Kickstarter rewards. And so it's this person who had kind of like a smaller booth in 2015, but has now gained like this really cool presence. So check out Crested Creations for like cool plushies types of things. They had a new game out called Heads Will Roll, which is just like this super, super simplistic game.
Did you bring it?
I don't have it with me. Sorry.
No worries.
It's easy enough to describe, though. So it comes with 2 silver skulls, 2 bronze skulls, a gold skull, and a gold dragon head. And
little tiny, like marbles almost.
Super tiny, marble sized, exactly. And so you shake them in your hand and you roll them out. And depending on where things land, like you can kick you have to, it's a flicking game almost. It's something you'd play at a bar or whatever.
Yep.
You have to try to flick the dragon head to get between goalposts that are made by the other skulls and stuff. It's a nice little time killer that was totally worth the investment, really fun to play with. But I explained the entire thing. It's simplistic enough. But the same people that did Dragoon also made this game called Human Era, which I played a separate game of, and I know JR and a bunch of the other guys tried to play as well.
Yeah, me, Colin, and Ken played, because you played a game with some strangers.
A bunch of strangers, yeah.
And did you play with Kevin? Did Kevin play?
Nope.
Oh, okay. It was you and some strangers, and then there was an open table. We got snagged by one of the play testers, and me, Colin, and Ken joined in with a different. God, what was her name? I can't remember her name. We played with a stranger of our own, and it's a similar game in that, like, of Secret Hitler in a way.
It's easy to pin it on that because there's a group of people who you want to be successful, quote unquote, like the liberals in Secret Hitler, which are the humans in this one. And then there's another group, which are the fascist equivalent, which are the machines. And basically time is all messed up, and you have 10 turns in which the humans are trying to fix time, and the machines are trying to destroy it.
There's also one cyborg.
And there's one cyborg. I have read the rules pretty clearly, and I've gone through 2 demos of it. I still don't totally get how to play the cyborg. It's really intimidating.
Yeah.
But it's cool because it adds this other level. Like, imagine playing Secret Hitler, and it's like there's liberals, there's fascists, and then there's just this guy named Johnny who comes in. Yeah, and he just punches people in the face. And the cyborg, I do have this understanding, their objective changes during the course of the game. So it's really hard to try to pin.
By the 5th turn or something like that, if a certain condition is met, the cyborg automatically wins.
Right. So it has this like cool balance of mechanics. The thing that puts it a slight bit above Secret Hitler for me is that there's no real game outside of the psychological warfare of Secret Hitler.
Right.
But inside of this game, there are mechanics where you're trying to create expeditions where you get certain cards that can heal time streams. And so you still have to lie or tell the truth and figure things out to make that work. But there's rules, and there's like these mechanics that are being played out that just makes it a bit more tangible,
like actual gameplay.
Yeah, there's an actual game that's inside of it, and not just the lying.
Right.
But the lying is definitely there. And that's coming out this summer. I think they said in July or so. Pre-orders might be available for it. We had a good time with it.
What was the name of this one?
Human Era.
Human Era.
Era. It was. I had a good time playing it, but I will admit I struggled getting, and I still don't fully get some of like the motivations. Like you said, the cyborg is tough to get. When I first started, I posted the picture on our social medias. I was a human, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do as a human. And like the first round comes through, and like people are asking me questions, and I don't know how to answer them, like because I don't know what my motivations are. Am I supposed to say I'm a human? Am I supposed to not be? Is being a human bad? Right. I feel like being a human is good. And like I said something, but I didn't know what I was doing. Like right off the bat, everyone's like, "Wow, we got a machine over here," and I was like, "Is that bad? Should I not be a machine? Can humans be machines?" And it took me a couple turns to really grasp what was happening. And even then, if we didn't have the runner, like the play tester, with us, the one part that really got me, and I still didn't. Even at the end of the game, I didn't get was the when a time stream is like healed,
right?
And how other things can mess it up, and how you need to start here, but you start on the opposite side of it. Like so, you start in the as an amoeba, but no, you're in the Paleolithic era, and then but this you can't have 2 dinosaurs on the board at the same time because they cancel each other out. Oh, but that screws up the rest of the square too.
Yeah. It doesn't have this like clean, transparent facial validity. Like you need to have somebody who knows how to play the game in order to play the game the first time.
Yeah.
But it is a fun game once you get those mechanics out. But I had the same problem where I understood the line mechanic, no idea how she was picking like which time period. Oops, excuse me.
Oh, we're hitting the mics.
Which time period was being affected by what?
Yeah,
and how to choose those.
It was, and I don't want to say it was strange. It was just I didn't get it. And I couldn't really focus enough to, and I didn't want to stop the game and be like, can you explain this one more time and ruin everyone else's experience too? But other than that, like it was still a good time. The playtester was cool, and you'll have to excuse me getting political here too. She had a pin on that said "Don't fuck Republicans," which I can get down with that. It was
game recognized game.
It was a neat game. I got to sit down and play a card game with my friends, and met a stranger she deceived me. I thought, because I was a human, and I thought she was a human with me. She was like voting as if she was a machine the whole time.
There was the other person that was at my table was also a machine because I was a machine, and he and I synced up in our line perfectly. We were turning people against each other so hardcore. Oh, it was wonderful. It was really, really nice. So yeah, that was a fun game though. I love the art style of it. I'd recommend, they have a Kickstarter that's closed down, so if you want to see a playthrough video, you can go to the Kickstarter.
Yep.
But yeah.
Looks like anyone who wants it missed out on the gold edition.
Oh no.
Where it comes with a gold wrench and
thing.
Was that like a lug nut?
All I have
Yeah,
is
I can see it.
I didn't just want to say nut because that would sound weird.
It's got
good
a
old
nut.
nut. I mean, I did get a wrench.
Oh yeah.
My wrench is silver,
Oh.
but they because the wrench determines like who is doing the who's picking the team that round.
Okay.
So they passed the wrench around. And they had a
Leading
bunch
the
on
expedition.
yeah, that's what it is. And they had a bunch of wrenches on the table. They can take a wrench. It's also a bottle opener. Cool.
Yep. It was a fun game though. It's a game I'd love to give another try to.
Yeah.
And the Kickstarter had some extras like a golden time machine and a pen, which looks like a T-Rex like popping out of a time machine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the art style was beautiful and a lot of fun. It's made by, I don't know if it's
And
the
like
same
look
design.
at his face as he's opening the door to the time machine.
Yeah.
It's great.
He's there. He wants to party.
Was the Kickstarter successful?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I imagine hugely.
They were looking for only $9,000. They got $45,000.
Okay. Yeah. Does it say the developer anywhere on there?
It would probably be at the top. It is worth noting.
Lay Waste Games.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's the same folks that do Dragoon.
And they're like out of Boston, Mass. Said
They're really cool and friendly and funny. Every person who I've ever talked to there has been really interesting. What was I going to say? Oh, so 45 for their Kickstarter, but then they also are involved with BackerKit, and I think they have another 22,000 through BackerKit too.
Wow.
So they're doing all right.
They're doing okay for them cards. You'll have to hit them up if they're local.
Yeah,
it's an interesting, interesting idea there.
They're fun folks.
Let's talk about Dragoon. So, other games. Take it.
Okay, cool. I spent a lot of time in the indie area trying to find new stuff. Because that's a bit. So I hit up Indie Mega Booth, which is well known for the indie games that they put out. They had, I want to say they had 2 separate sections set up for tabletop specifically, which was a lot of fun. And they had the one area that I went through, they had 6 different tables set up, and it was just so easy to rapid fire try some stuff out. So one of them actually brought a copy of it, and it's called Visitor in Blackwood Grove. And the best way to describe it is that it's this asymmetric game, so there's different people with different abilities in it, but it's like the movie Arrival, if anybody saw that, combined with E.T. And so the whole point of the game is like this alien ship lands and there's a force field around it. And inside you have to have at least 3 people to play it. So you have this person who's playing the visitor, the alien. You have a kid who is trying to figure things out as well. And so the win situation is for, I'll go through. And then you can have your 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th players play agents from different government agencies. So FBI, CIA, DOE, which I assume is Department of Education. It's of energy, it turns out. I don't know. And so this force field is set up, and certain things can go through it, and certain things can't. And so the point of the game is that the alien gives out these hints, and the entire gameplay is done with pictures of just hundreds of random objects. And there's a different mechanic for how the agents can figure it out, and they're really strong in the beginning. They're strong and secretive. And there's different mechanics for the kid to figure out, but his mechanics only get stronger, his or her mechanics, if they build up trust first. So you have to build up trust with the alien by doing these different things and taking these risks. And then the kid can potentially get way more powerful too. But pretty much if you can teach the rules in your language and then hand out the pieces, everything is done visually inside of this game. And the art style is beautiful. It's really, really cool and interesting. Kevin and I sat down to play it, sort of like, oh, she had an open chair. We're going to check this out.
Yeah.
And within 5 minutes, we were immediately sold on the game and wanted to pick up a copy of it. The Kickstarter was successful, and I believe it's going to be in stores over the course of the next month or 2, but it was a really cool, strong recommend for me. I actually brought a copy. So... but it's really cool. It's got this, like I said, this really fun art style. It's by Mary Flanagan and Max Seidman. But really fun. And I don't think I've ever seen a game. The only game that comes close to that is Mysterium, if anyone's ever played that before, but it works as a pretty good reference point. So yeah, that's Visitor in Blackwood Grove.
I like the sound of it.
I think it would be a lot of fun.
Because immediately, I cracked it open to take a look at it while we were chatting in pre-show.
Mm-hmm.
And I dig Aliens. I like the concept, and the fact that it wasn't like X-Files or anything, it was different, and I got like the ET feel of it.
Yeah. And then that idea of there's a lot of like, I like when game mechanics translate to the story. So the mechanic for the agent is that they're allowed to show the alien a card secretly without the kid seeing it, and the kid has to show his cards in the beginning all face up. But that kind of makes sense, right? Like, wouldn't an agency be able to like keep things under wraps, but a kid wouldn't know how to do stuff like that? But the kid's mechanics get stronger the closer he gets to the alien, and so you see her like, she can't draw any cards, like get more resources until that trust is built up. But then the alien can start showing cards to the kid secretly because they're becoming friends and they're following Reese's Pieces, and it's, you just get this like adorable vibe that's a lot of fun. But at the same time, you have all these agents that are like trying to ruin everything, which is really cool.
Those agents.
On to other things that are happening over there. So I also played a game that's called Now Everyone Get the Fuck Out. The F is like F. $, hashtag, yeah. But the guy was calling it that, so that's what I'm going to call it.
Yep.
And it's this, you get a bunch of cards handed out to you, and the idea is that you exist in a dorm room, and you have dice that keep track of how many people are in your room, and you win the game if you can get people out of your room. And so all of the cards are like, a ball pit, and you can play the ball pit in somebody else's room because you're trying to get people to run over to the other room, or somebody brings puppies over, or things that are far more violent and disgusting that I won't get into. Really cool idea for a game with mechanics that can make it so that the game never ends. It's the card game equivalent of Monopoly, where you can just eventually, like, it will end eventually, but it's probably going to end. Me. Yeah. It's a really cool idea. It's made for a population that isn't me, though.
Yeah.
The art style is...
The art style's 90s.
Yeah, it has this the Garbage Pail Kids vibe almost.
Like, I've literally seen posters on college walls.
Yeah.
That
look like this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not to,
and I'm an old man, so
not to hurt, but like it's almost like the guy that designed the cover for Dookie, like designed this game. Sorry, Jared.
No, kind of like, would you say like Mad Magazine almost?
Yeah. It's this simplistic art style. It's got a vibe to it, and nothing that really like that was fun for me. And it's mainly because of that mechanic where the game can just keep going, and you can keep saving it, and you can keep screwing.
It gets a little exhausting.
It does get a little bit. You're done hearing it.
I'm not a Monopoly fan, you know. I don't think I've ever successfully finished a game of Monopoly. It's just so to hear a game that
gives that vibe.
Yeah. It's one thing if you're playing like an unwinnable game.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd gone to a panel at Unplugged about it. You can go hear about it on my Unplugged recap about like that, a panel on people who designed games that you cannot win. Like you are going to die in this game, and that's how the game ends. Mm-hmm. That's one thing, because at least there's an end.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's not a satisfying end, but if it just keeps going and like, okay, we're about to win and we're back.
Well, and a part of it comes from it's a game where, and I just from a mechanic perspective, you'll hear a lot of the games I love playing are co-op games. Like that was the fun part of Visitor. It's one of the fun things of with friends like these, like it's this co-op piece. And this game is built that you're trying to screw over, if you're playing 4 people, the other 3 people.
Yeah.
And because of that, your allegiances change all the time. And there's a fun to be had about that mechanic. But boy, does it make it so that this when you're about to win,
stubborn, your allegiance isn't going anywhere.
Yeah,
if you're playing with Alex, you're not going.
There it is.
Whoa,
hey,
there's another friend of ours who
is worse.
Get well soon, man.
No, it's not,
zoom.
It's not even. It's a different direction.
I have 2 friends that are worse.
But as you're describing, like. I get Jared's point of like if it's going to take that long, and I'm comparing like, well, if the people are just more cards, then it's Uno,
right?
Yeah,
because you hit your draw 2, your draw 4, change color, you got to draw until you get the right thing.
Right.
You just can't get rid of your card people.
You know, that is a super good analogy. Like,
so if you can handle Uno, then you can handle this game.
But I think with Uno, doesn't the deck eventually run out?
You reshuffle.
You reshuffle. Then yeah, it's just like Uno.
It's Uno.
It's Uno with more recycling mechanics.
Oh, yeah, there's other
it.
stuff in. There's dice and some extra chips in there that I see. So
yeah,
it's not as basic.
No, and it's a game that's worth playing through. If you can ever find a chance to demo it, I strongly recommend. Another thing with, I'm going back slightly, but just for a moment, with Visitor in Blackwood Grove, it has a print option where you can spend $6 and print out the game yourself, which I think is really cool for accessibility reasons. But yeah, so if you ever get a chance to try out this game, I kind of wish it had a print version. That's what made me think of it.
Well, with this is from StarCap Games, and like they have a print and play tab.
Oh, cool.
On the website.
Then that might be worth checking out because it's
like, I don't think this game is on it, but
maybe it will get to that point.
Right. Yeah.
And it's pretty affordable. If that kind of game and that kind of humor jives with you, check it out. They're selling it through online retailers, so you can check it out there. The last game that I want to talk about that was at the Indie Mega booth that stood out, and sorry for poo-pooing on one of the games in the middle, but I only played these 3, was, oh gosh, what was it called? It was called Wisp in the Veil. Now, in my chart of keeping track of things, I have a system. And this system, so it might say like tabletop or Xbox One, this system is called Lark Lamp. Have you guys ever heard of Lark Lamp?
I have never heard of Lark Lamp.
Lark Lamp?
Are you saying Lark Lamp?
LRAKLAMP. Lark Lamp.
No.
So this is a guy who I had one of the most interesting conversations with. Lark Lamp is a system that he invented on his own. And it's a lamp. It's a literal lamp that has like almost like a Chinese lantern that has like 4 sides. But you can change the panels in and out of it. So he sells games that are just these 4 inserts that you put all the way, and it might come with a couple of additional pieces, but these 4 inserts that go around the lamp. And when you light up the lamp, it creates shadows on the table, and those shadows are your game board. Now, the thing that, like, that might be enough where you're like, okay, so there's different shadows. There are things that happen during the course of the game where you take out panels and switch them around, or you lift the lamp up and down, and it changes the way that the playfield works and how you can navigate through it. From a game design perspective, it was one of the coolest things I heard about at PAX this year. I was itching to tell you guys about it, actually, when we were doing pre-show, but you're like, no, save it for the show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I want to hit you with this right now.
I remember you mentioned that, and like, it's one of those things that, how do you even begin like start make those mechanics, make it work?
It helps,
especially when it changes, like.
This guy has over 20 years of experience in the video game field and has been a level designer, and it comes through in every inch of this. I can see Alex is clicking through it right now.
I just sent it to you too.
Conceptually, how cool is this though? Like,
not only so, like, all right, so design wise, this means that he had to have each window cut a certain way so that when the light shines on the table,
it adjusts properly.
Yeah. So like the ones up close had to look really oblong, so they make this right diamond shape, which means the ones that are like towards the top of the lamp they have farther to cast their shadow and their light, so it had to be a different shape, and then they'll come out even.
Yeah, it's freakily like.
This game is beautiful.
So it has 2 games out right now, and the one that he was demoing was called Wisp in the Veil. And so you move around the map, and you can see there are light spots and dark spots, and you can't move through the dark spots, but you can cast spells that will switch the panel around so you can start moving around, but you're being hunted by a wisp at the same time. It's really, really cool idea. He has another game that's coming out as well, but he was talking about some of his future designs, and one of them is like an Alice in Wonderland-esque game, where you know how in the beginning she like shrinks and grows, and so you raise the lamp up so it increases or decreases the size of the board itself. It was one of the coolest ideas, and you can just tell the guy's brilliant. Like the way that somebody's brain would work to come up with this stuff. But essentially, this little 4-panel lantern that he invented is his game console. Like it's an Xbox One, it's a PlayStation 4, but it's all done with this analog lamp light sort of thing. The battery lasts a long time. I think he said it's run by a couple AAAs.
Yeah.
And it will last for like 15 hours worth of gameplay. But I highly recommend check it out. Watch a video of the game working. It was so cool. And this is what indie folks are doing. Like, they're being really innovative with the materials that they have out there. Oh, I got really excited about it. All right.
I wonder, like, if this idea came up, like, while camping.
Yeah, seriously.
Right.
Just playing with shadows. And it does have this Like, it's not just a game for the sake of a game. Like, the fact that it's called Wisp in the Veil. Like, if you know wisps from, like, fantasy and stuff, they're these flames, these lights that chase people. Like, it gives you this vibe. Like, his whole booth, like, it was in Indie Mega, which isn't covered or anything, but he had his old awning over his table because you need the darkness to do it, which was really nice.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm talking a lot. Do you guys want more? I don't know.
Well, let's do a couple more minutes of games, and then we can move on to rest of the show. We have a couple panels to discuss, and then we can move on to thoughts. If we have any spare time at the end, I figure if there's any games left for us to touch on. But we can do a couple more minutes here.
Can I do one more of these?
Do one more. Do it.
So normally Kickstarter is the place where like I will jam out to at some point and will always impress me. Last year, Alex and I played a gigantic game of Exploding Kittens, which was a lot of fun. So I didn't have a chance to swing by Kickstarter on Friday, but it was the first thing that I hit on Saturday because I wanted to see their layout. Like I always end up buying something. That's where I got the cool metagame from last year, which was one of my favorite gets. And I walk in and they have 4 games set up. And like my heart sank. And it was one of those like
they had like 8 last year.
Yeah, and like pretty involved booths and multiple things on sale. They didn't even have a merch area set up. It was really, really shocking.
Huh.
So I came in.
That's where I bought my organ game.
Yeah, we had a blast with it. It was a really cool booth.
I still play that game.
So I remember my heart having this like sinking feeling, and I walk through a little bit, and I can see people playing one game, and a woman invites me over to play this other game, which was pretty fun. In the back, they were doing a game of Secret Hitler with the creators of Homestar Runner, which I felt they invited us to play, and I totally should have, but I was like, I don't have a lot of time today.
Yeah.
And so as I was playing the video game, Kevin and Colin got sucked into this game called Illimat, which that's this game right here. It was set up right up the front, but the woman had like a table set up with like fake candles, and the game itself gives off this really cool cult-like tarot vibe that it's just really, really fun. Like the aesthetic is really cool. And if you look at the front of it, it says the Decemberist Present, because this whole game was designed for a Decemberist, I want to say, album cover. I'm pretty sure it's what it was. My notes in here say Colin can describe this. Sorry, Colin. Yeah, just right on the comments of the game explaining it. But basically, they designed it, and then somebody was like, you should make this a game. And they did. And it's a really fun, super creepy little type of game that it's like a card game. Like there's these mechanics, but you can harvest, which is collecting points, you can sow, which is laying them out, and stockpiling, which is its own damn thing. But it's pretty easy to understand, but the seasons change throughout the course of the game depending on your actions, and depending on the season you can block people's actions and stuff like that. It's one of those games that'll take you 5 minutes to learn, but the mechanics are so much fun and there's so much strategy inside of it. That was a really strong recommend for me, too. We had a blast playing it, and immediately ran down to Scott Kurtz's booth where it was being sold and jumped on it.
Was it Son of the Table Titans booth?
Yeah, it was being sold at Table Titans, which was really fun. The thing that I said all those bad things about the Kickstarter booth because I didn't realize every 2 hours they were changing out who was in the Kickstarter booth.
Really?
And I didn't know that until I left. And now I'm so angry at myself because I went from going, man, there's only 4 games here, to, oh, there were probably like 30
12.
people a day. Yeah. And I just missed it. Like, not 30 people a day, but 30 people the 2 days I went. Yeah. And it just missed out on all of that. So I'm sorry, Kickstarter. I feel like I broke your heart. But Illimat was a really good pull. It's Illimat. And I ended up playing it last Sunday with Colin and Kevin again, with Kevin's wife. And we had a ball with it. It was really cool.
As soon as you said like Decemberist, my first thought was, so at what point are you swallowed by a whale? Because that's one of my favorite songs.
Oh, and the other thing is the game is just full of Decemberist references. And if I was a bigger Decemberist fan, I'd tell you about them. That the expansion pack is called The Crane Wife. So anyone who's, oh yeah, Crane Wife. I don't know what it is, but I'm really excited about it.
Okay.
It gives off such a Ben Wyatt vibe, both for the music type and like she walked us through the creation of the game, but it is not punishingly intricate. It was actually pretty simple to learn. So
they did appear in an episode of Parks and Rec.
That's how I know who the Decemberists are. They were in Parks and Rec that one time.
Well, I made a joke about that because I said to the lady, like, I'm getting a real Ben Wyatt vibe. And she goes, yeah, we actually got to play this game with the Decemberists. And I'm like,
oh my God.
So you're very cool. That's nice. It's like when Kay Hanley winks at me. I freak out. So those were the big ones that, like, new games that I hadn't really heard of. There was some other stuff that came around. If you haven't heard of Sentinels of the Multiverse, I think this is a game, Alex, that you would be all over. It's a deck existing cooperative superhero type of game.
Okay.
But the superheroes and supervillains are really interesting, but it's been out since 2011, so I don't feel like we need to, like, ultra hype it. But none of us had heard of it, and it was so fun. You watched us play that,
I watched
right?
the entirety of that game, yeah.
And it was, like, intense.
It got down, and then Colin drops this bomb where he had this one card where he had to sacrifice a lot of his resources, if I recall correctly.
It was the damage that he did was based off of how hurt he was, and he waited until the very end of the game to drop this, and we beat the bad guy, and then their card flips over. It's the game mechanic should be called "This Isn't Even My Final Form," because that's what happens. They get stronger, they get all their health back. And Colin, who, I mean, we had all been pretty beat up, but he played this character called the Fanatic, which has this, like, religious element to it, and you can just see him, like, spitting blood out of his mouth and then, like, holding up a hand, and he takes all of the damage he had taken and it hits the bad guy with it, and we freaked. It was great. So much fun.
It was like, it reminded me a lot of Hearthstone.
Yeah.
In that it's kind of like a deck building game in a way.
But your deck is already built.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
And like you're facing against like another built deck, you know, like a hero in a way. It gave me a lot of Hearthstone vibes, which was really neat. But that was a fun game. That the woman who was running the game with you, she was a lot of fun. Like she was like equal parts on your side, but also like because she was acting as the bad guy in a way.
The bad guy will play himself or herself normally throughout the course because you just flip the card over, but she was teaching us and playing the bad guy's cards. So we also kind of hated her a little bit.
It was neat. It was neat.
She was really, really good.
Pictures will again of that game. Snapped a couple. Bob snapped a couple of the boys playing that one. Very intense. And Kevin bought it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we got to play it on Sunday, and it was still really, really fun. And then the last things that I picked up were 3 RPG books, but I honestly don't know a lot about them, but they're worth looking up. They're called Questlandia, Noirlandia, and then Damn the Man, Save the Music. So this is a group of people that operate out of Chicago, Illinois, and then in Western Massachusetts as well, in the like Northampton, East Hampton area. But they are RPG books in a way that you can create, based off of the information, a new story, a new arc every time you crack them open. Questlandia is you creating a kingdom with friends and then watching it fall into decline. And Noirlandia is you trying to solve a spontaneously generating crime every single time. I don't know enough about these games, but I did buy the books for them, and I'm super excited to try them out with the guys. So that's everything that I played.
Everything. All the games. So, and that's the thing is, we probably, and if you've never been to a PAX before and you're thinking about it, the games that we all just spent the last hour talking about is maybe a 100th of the games that are there.
It was generously 2%.
Yeah, it's the amount of things that you can do, which is, and I ranted in my post last year with the episode 2 of our PAX recap, where I went a little off the chain. Because I get defensive of PAX because it's obviously my favorite show, and people say PAX is boring. It drives me up the wall because how could you be bored at a show like that? If you're into games, at the least there's something there for you. There's probably multiple things there for you. You might have to find it though.
I said it last year. If PAX is boring, it's because you are.
Oh,
it's true though. It's like, and I remember I can throw myself under this. 2015 PAX was the most boring PAX, and it's because we didn't PAX hard enough.
Yeah,
yeah. And now we PAX hard.
We yeah. We I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, but we ball pretty hard when it comes to PAX. So it is what it is. Let's discuss panels. I became kind of a panel guy at Unplugged because I'd gone into at length about it, in that my social anxiety and shyness did not allow me to play games. I was just a wuss. So I changed up my approach, and I wanted to do panels more. And I kind of fell in love with a couple things at that, which spilled over into East this year. I was determined to make it to another round of the Omegathon, because I had such a blast at it last year. It was so much fun. I've caught the final round a bunch of times on Twitch because we're usually almost never there for the final round because it's the last thing. Like, it's what ends the show.
Yeah.
So I was determined to make it to a round of the Omegathon. At PAX East, they do teams. So it's not just single Omeganauts. It is teams of Omeganauts, teams of 2. The one that I caught, I went to round 2 on Friday night. And it was a game called Mowing and Throwing. We'll get into that in a moment. It's exactly what it sounds like. Literally. It was a lot of fun in that it was packed. Because at Unplugged, we went to the first round of the Omegathon, and Unplugged's a smaller show. I believe there's 2 panel rooms. There's a small one and a big one. And I can't remember if we were in the big one. I can't remember. But there was I think I said maybe 150 people in that one, maybe.
Yeah.
It was a packed house, but it was a little more calm in that they were playing a calm game, and every now and then people would cheer and kind of yell for someone, but it was more reserved, and mostly people were just kind of laughing. This one, for Mowing and Throwing, was hype. People were fucking. I'm getting emotional. People were screaming. It was like I was at an esports event. People were cheering and losing their minds at this game. It was a packed house. It was in the Dragonfly Theater, so it was one of the bigger ones. I think it was Dragonfly.
I think you're right.
I actually have the picture right in front of me. Yes, it was at the Dragonfly Theater, which was big. And they filled it. I believe I did a rough estimate. I tried to. Alex is a lot better at it than me, but I try to do him proud when I'm alone at shows. I believe there's about 350 people in the room. A lot of people. The game, Mowing and Throwing. It is a team.
You can't say it without me laughing. I don't know anything about this game, but it's such a good name.
It was Dragonfly.
Dragonfly. Yeah, I had the picture, man. I got
I'm
it.
sorry.
I'm good.
Right.
Thank you, though.
When I agreed with you, I didn't even know.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just going in confident.
And Alex has the program in front of him. It's a game based. It's team based, obviously. So 2 teams of 2. Essentially, the screen's divided in half. There are 2 sides, each with a yard. And one, it doesn't matter who's who. You either can do either job. There's 2 roles. One person has to mow the lawn. The other person has to. They do a variety of things. They can keep the lawnmower gassed up with gas. They can throw rocks at opposing team members to kind of it stuns them. They can throw bags of fertilizer to the opposite side of the map to make the grass grow back. And they can also furiously pull grass out of the ground if they want to try and help.
It's gonna ruin the lawn.
Graphically, is this a 16-bit? Is this modern graphics?
A little bit better than it's not quite 16-bit, but it's not it's not Skyrim. Okay. It's not gonna. I can show you guys a video of it, but
I'll check it out later. Yeah. Oh, Alex
got it up.
Multimedia specialty.
He's like Joe Rogan's guy who gets videos up.
Yeah.
Oh look, Joe Rogan's in this video.
Joe Rogan. So.
Oh, there went the fertilizer.
Exactly.
Oh, it was a night round too.
I don't know. It gets intense. Toward because every now and then there's a drop. It's like an ammo drop almost, where it's going to be a gas can. Is it going to be fertilizer? Is it going to be a rock that you can throw? Because the lawnmower runs out of gas super quick, and you can do a little speed boost, and your gas plummets, and eventually your grass grows back and things like that. And it's all based on percentage. You've cut 78% of your lawn or whatever, and there's a timer, and if the timer runs out, whoever's cut the most grass obviously wins. Or if you get 100%, you win automatically. The thing is one person can keep it gassed up. If you run over the gas can, you'll get gas. Or the person who's mowing the lawn can get off and, fill it up if they need to, if the other person's too far away or something like that.
It's like a reverse Splatoon.
In a way, yeah. Like the map shifts. It's there's one area that's up and one area that's down, and only one ramp is open at a time. And it got so intense. And I believe... and I think this was streamed, so I might be able to go back and check the VOD, but I believe the developers of the game were there, watching it, which I thought was kind of neat, especially hearing so many people hype over your game, about mowing lawns as little lawn gnomes. And it was so intense. There was a couple, and Ken came with me, and I thought at first Ken was just kind of humoring me.
Yeah.
But it seemed like he was getting into it too. We were actually sitting next to 2 two women whose friend was an Omega Knot, because like they started like getting really excited when one of the teams was up, and like completely outside of character, I say, because I don't talk to strangers,
Right.
I'm very shy. I say, do you know them? And like, yeah, she's our friend. And I was like, okay, and like I turned to Ken, I was like, we're rooting for them. You know, that's who we. Unfortunately,
we now have an allegiance.
Exactly. Unfortunately, they didn't win the round. I don't know how that team progressed through the rest of the Omegathon, but it was so many matches came down to the wire. There was one match where it was like it's like 77% and 75% with like 2 seconds left, and the percentages change really fast. Like mowing like one thing of grass, you can go up like 5%. So like it's no lead was ever safe. Like one team was up like 80% to 20 at one point. They ended up losing. Like it was insanity, and it like whenever the timer was coming down, everyone was just it was so loud. It was so much fun. And like
you're describing it, the beginning of your description, it's like, well, this can't be much more involved than like opening rounds of Plants vs Zombies or whatever.
Right.
But then like when you're like, no, like people are throwing gas cans, they're throwing fertilizer, you could like try and bonk the other gnomes in the head and everything.
Yep.
And like the clips that I just saw, like I couldn't keep track of what was happening.
And especially at the end of the round, it gets intense because stuff just starts dropping like crazy.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, one person's, they're 5% away, but they ran out of gas, and their partner hucks a gas can from like across the map, but they just miss. You know, it's so funny.
Booker catch.
Exactly. Exactly. And it was a lot of fun. Like there wasn't like the commentator, he was the same gentleman who did it at Unplugged, who was I kind of got on him for ripping on Neil a little bit, but he was a lot more fair this time, wasn't really picking on anyone, but like he did some commentary, but it like the game did a lot of speaking for itself, which was neat. It was a lot of fun. We couldn't stay the whole time because we had 2 commitments.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately there was some overlap. The Omegathon was at the exact same time as our friend Vicky's panel, V Cosplay. She did a panel with 2 of her friends called I believe it was Cosplay 101. Should be in the program, I believe.
Yes,
but
5 p.m. on Friday or 6 p.m. on
6
Friday.
p.m. on Friday. I believe I had asked you guys what the count was, and you guys said it was a full house.
It filled up completely.
Yep.
Which was really, really, I think by the time they started the presentation, they started a couple minutes early, there were probably 10, 15 empty seats in the entire house. Arachnid, I want to say.
Something like that, yeah.
But it was completely full. So I went into this panel. A lot of us were able to join from the beginning, and then JR and Ken were able to join up a little bit later.
We snuck in because we left Omegathon. I was like, we'll do half Omegathon, half Vicky, and we did kind of 3/4 Omegathon because it was just so intense. And then when we got down, like I pulled on the door, and an enforcer was like, sorry, that's full, and shut me down. But then the Q&A portion of Vicky's panel started, and a lot of people filtered out, so we snuck in with them.
Yep. And it was cool to catch the Q&A side of it.
Yeah.
I went into this presentation. I don't know a ton about cosplay. Most of my knowledge comes from Colin. But I was excited to see it. Like, it's people that we know that are doing it. And I'm like, oh, Cosplay 101. I've always thought about doing this. This could be a lark. I was like, this is going to be like good advice. And like, these are some theories. This was an engineering 101 class. I was like eagerly at like the tip of my chair ready for this. And then I just ended up sitting back and was like, I was supposed to bring a notepad. Like, it was so crazy informative. Like the knowledge, I have always been impressed by the cosplay that Vicky puts out. She does a stunning job. What's her company name?
V Cosplay.
V Cosplay.
VEE.
VEE. You should check this stuff out. She is brilliant in her construction. To actually see the work that goes behind it, and I wasn't joking about engineering wise, like from a seamstress ability, but also from an engineering, from a woodworking, from a plastic knowledge. I think this is something that, like Alex, I think you have a lot of this knowledge as well. I know a guy like Dave Herrick has a lot of this knowledge as well. I think Vicky, she is a scientist. It is incredible the work that came in. The other 2 panelists were amazing as well, but one of the panelists was doing a I never say her name right, Aloy from oh my gosh,
Robot Monster Hunter.
No.
Yeah. The robot monsters.
It was not. No. It was from Horizon Zero Dawn.
That's what it is.
That's the same thing.
Is it cool? The robot dinosaurs. Yeah. Okay. You're saying it fast. I'm like, hi, new game. Mass Effect. No, and so she's describing it, and she's describing how she made her bow, and it's like, oh, you didn't make like a real functional bow, but you made something that had that much engineering behind it. It was really, really amazing. I think the guy that was on the panel also has like an engineering background, so he's describing like how you get different things to merge and what their plastic heat temperatures were, and like this.
He was from Rocket Props.
Yes,
and the other cosplayer was Mink the Satyr.
Thank you so much. I should have
looked it up on Vicky's page.
Should have pulled this up. But yes, that's exactly what it is. And it was, you might think like a conversation like that where I'm like, oh, you should take notes. This should be boring. It was riveting. And it was, I genuinely was upset that I didn't bring a notebook because there's so much good, useful information. I had talked to Vicky afterwards, and she apparently mentioned that they're hoping to do like a 201 at other future events, and that they might be presenting this information elsewhere. If you have even the slightest bit of desire to take your cosplay level and move it to like the professional level, that's what they're teaching you how to do.
What was fun at one point, a couple months ago, maybe within the past 2 months, I believe, Jimmy Noguchi from Super Art Fight, we're all friends now when they come to Kineticon. And so he like knows who to contact to ask these specific questions about. And he's been trying to make a thing. And so Vicky goes, oh, let me try this. And so he had a question about what adhesive he should use for what foam and what he wants to attach it to. And she just had this stuff laying around, immediately does a 4-piece example of like, here's PVC pipe, here's this kind of foam, here's 2 types of foam, and then 2 types of glue. So it's like 4 examples and how they stick.
Yep.
And she sticks them on and goes, all right, they've set for about, like 5 hours or so. And now I'm going to try and rip them off. And she like took video of this process. So like when you say scientist, like she executed her experiment to prove her theory and hypothesis.
There were multiple slides that had like, I love these tables because it's so obvious and so clear, where you had like a bunch of adhesives in the column and then a whole bunch of different materials in the row. And then they were color coded either red, yellow, or green. And it's just this, you look at it and there's 50 pieces of data just laid out here, multiple slides like this. And she would be like, yeah, this is a good slide to take a picture of. And you would just see all the camera phones like lift up out of.
Because if you use the wrong combination, like your thing's going to melt.
You might, that's not even the worst thing. It'll murder you. You will die from this.
Oh yeah, the fumes.
You're going to have a bad time. Like, holy shit. It was so fun. And like, they had such a good sense of humor. We were all laughing, but it was a science class.
And they were
like,
handing out samples.
Yeah, they were passing around.
You can feel like, see what Wonderflex or whatever it's called feels like. And you can feel like, here's what I can't remember. Yeah. And like closed blank foam, and like I'm like, this is so cool. But it was super fun and interesting, and props. I'm not even just saying that for like friend reasons. It's, you should go find this panel next time it happens and learn a whole lot. I struggled with I couldn't even rock friend status. It was kind of bullshit, really. I feel like I'm owed an apology.
Was she busy? Was she too busy?
Yeah. Like, what the come on, man. Like, so I'm obviously joking, but I'm not. Like, because I wound up with the samples at the end of the panel. I had all the samples in my hands, and I was like, what the fuck do I do with these? and then it ended. So I went up to go be like, hey, Vicky, cool panel. Here's your samples back.
Yeah.
And she was mobbed. And I was like, excuse me, like, I know her, excuse me, I'm her friend.
Jimmy Olsen, Daily Planet.
Exactly, yeah, like, get out of the way.
She's been on my podcast 10 times now, so...
Has it really been 10?
I don't think it's been 10.
It's been a couple, like 4 or 5.
More than that.
I was like, she's been on my pod, like, I kind of know her. If you ask her what my name is, she'll tell you what my name is, probably. And
she knows my dog. We know each other's dogs.
I had to, like, interrupt a conversation, be like, here you go, Vicky, you're my really good friend, right? And she was like, piss off, I'm talking to my fans.
And she's like, yeah, Alex.
Pretty much.
I was mixing you two up.
But yeah, like, it was really neat to see, like, at the end of the show, even after the Q&A and all that, like, it's like, okay, thank you for coming out. And it's like, people just mobbed up to the table to like not shout, but, say give compliments and appreciations, things like that. It was rad to hear that, especially that it was a packed house. That's so cool. I'm really so happy for Vicky. Again, that's V Cosplay, VEE spelled out. Cosplay. You can find her on Facebook, Instagram. I believe she is on Twitter as well.
And you can use that to refer to the other two presenters as well. They are, all three of them clearly create these amazing ideas and props, and the creativity that they have and how they put their materials together. They have this engineering ability, but one of the things that Vicky's well known for is her Metroid cosplay, her Samus cosplay. She doesn't go as an evil alien.
As a Metroid.
Yeah, she just floats around and like sucks energy out. It's she has a really cool Samus cosplay, and she can do Zero Suit, but she has the actual suit. And do you guys know how she made her visor for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You do? Yeah. It's a soda bottle.
Get out.
Yeah, she took the plastic from like a soda bottle because it's a green visor.
Yeah.
She goes,
It's the perfect green.
yeah, she was like frustrated and she was like drinking a Sprite and she like sips it back and goes, oh, hey.
Oh, there it is.
But it's like the resourcefulness that you get from that is really, really cool.
And no one would ever know. Like, she gets called out. Like, last year we were talking with Jeff. And he was like, "Oh, hey, that's Jeff from Penny Arcade," and he was like, "Hey, that's a cool Samus." And I was like, "We know her.
Yeah,
if you want to talk to her, we can probably get her over here.
That's our friend.
It's not a big deal." But another panel, if you want to call it a panel, more of a show. Saturday morning, me, Bob, and Ken did make it out to Make a Strip, which has been kind of like a tradition. Last year we skipped Make a Strip in lieu of AC Inc. because we went Saturday, Sunday last year instead of Friday. That was last year, right? Yeah, it was last year.
We did acting last year.
Yep. So we, after a hiatus, although I did see Make a Strip at Unplugged, but we checked it out this year. It was Bob and I think Ken saw a little bit of it last year, but Bob hadn't been to it before, and I don't, not too much to report on. Mike and Jerry came out. They were very funny. They were very entertaining, and they made a strip, and the strip was funny. No mishaps with Photoshop licenses this time. I can't remember if that was Unplugged.
I think it was Unplugged.
Yeah, it must have been Unplugged.
Yeah.
And like they did it something a little bit different with like the questions, because they did a lot of Q&A this year. They did a Q&A on Thursday, I believe. They did Make a Strip, and then they did a Q&A on Sunday as well. And they had all the questions in a big pirate ship, which again we took pictures of. It's going to be up on our photo album. And they had the red envelopes like they've had in the past years, which are usually like the hard questions. This year they were Boston questions. It's like they were relating to like Boston or the East Coast or something like that of that nature. And then they had black envelopes, which were the tough ones, and then the white ones were just kind of the standard ones. Joe and I submitted questions. Unfortunately, they did not get asked. I was a little bummed. My question, I had asked if they were thrust into a video game a la the smash hit 90s or early 2000s, I don't know, television show Reboot. Which
1994 era.
Yeah. Which game would be the game that they would dread being thrust into the most and forced to beat? Otherwise, the entire city would be destroyed. You ever see Reboot? Dot Matrix?
Some of it.
Hexadecimal?
Man.
Megabyte?
Wasn't a fan.
What was the name? Mouse? Yeah, Mouse was
maybe.
like, oh yeah. No, I loved Reboot, bro. So like in the last season, maybe last 2 seasons, they flash forward. And so what's the kid's name? Enzo, yeah. Yeah, Enzo is like older. And there's this like hot virus named Mouse that he's super into. I don't even know if she's a virus. I don't even care.
She might be. She most likely
Great
be.
name though, Mouse.
Sadly, my question did not come up. Joe, I can't remember your question. I just know it was goddamn brilliant.
I just
was like, man, I'm going to be so upset when Joe's question gets asked, but mine doesn't.
Especially with me not going to it.
But they did have, like, there was a lot of questions there. Like, even I watched the Q&A on Sunday. There was a hefty amount still left in the ship. So I think they just took a bunch and they stuck them in there, and if they get to them, they'll get to them. But Make a Strip, it was very, if you're ever at PAX and you're even interested in catching one of the shows, and something to keep note of, we've always lined up super early for Make a Strip. We always get there first because it's usually really early on Saturday, or one of the first panels on Saturday. I think it starts at 10:30. Show opens at 10 for the record. And we got there late this year. We got there real late. We got a little disconnected from each other on the way in, and we took a different route. We got stuck in the tunnel going, and we got jammed in the tunnel. It was bad.
And
bad.
I was following on my GPS, and Kevin was giving me a little bit of help, and ended up taking a left turn too early. So you know how like the once you take that left onto the bridge.
Yeah.
We took an early left.
Yeah.
And it accidentally took us to the back entrance for the parking lot, which, as it turns out, is enormously quicker than driving in front of.
They were in the show probably 45 minutes before us.
Yeah, it was
unbelievable, and we left at the exact same time.
And it became one of those, and you guys were ahead of us because that's how we lost you.
Yep.
So yeah, hey guys, I got a secret entrance now.
Yep. We'll have to keep note of that.
Okay.
But we got there late. We got into the theater at like 10:25. It was starting at 10:30, and they had already, there was no line. They'd already loaded in, obviously. So, and we walked right up to the second row and found seats. I mean, obviously, we weren't anywhere near the center. We were off to the far right, like right in front of one of the big screens. They have two big screens on each side flanking the stage. So I could see the entire thing, and then I could look over and see Mike and Jerry talking as well. You know, it was great. Like no need to get there 2 hours early and wait in line. So, you know, maybe if it's something you might be considering, you might be able to just show up, take a peek. Didn't get a head count. I'm sorry, Alex. I suck. But
what might have been one of the black envelopes that you remember, or did you?
I don't recall. There was one of them that actually was kind of a carryover from Unplugged.
Yeah.
At Unplugged during the, I can't remember if it was Make a Strip or Q&A because we saw both of them. Jerry had pointed out at one point that 2016 was a very rough year for Penny Arcade, and the company almost went under.
Yeah.
And someone asked, like, you know, would you care to elaborate on that? And Jerry he straight up knowed it. I don't want to. And Mike kind of, he picked it up a little bit, said that, you know, some stuff went down. There were a lot of very tough things that happened, and it legitimately was like, they're like, the company was in danger for a little bit there. But then Mike prefaced it, you know, kind of concluded it by saying things are great now. Everything is awesome. And, you know, like he loves his job, you know, so kind of put some ease on it a little bit.
The Q&A is, I mean, I've only seen 3 of them officially, but it's very raw. It's like they are very earnest and very transparent. And that's not, I don't know if it was a financial issue, if it was a relationship issue between those guys or some of the other people involved. But they've talked about before where they've never stood there and claimed like, oh, this company is going to stand forever on our friendship. Like they have flat out said like, no, we really like working together, but there's nothing magical about our relationship. It's not like, oh yeah, we're best friends and we're going to like, no, they're not best friends. Like they work together and they are good friends and they go way back and they have a lot of stories, but they're not trying to guarantee the existence of this. Or
20 years this year.
Yeah.
Penny Arcade, which is insanity.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when we shot our website using like their design, and that was back in 2006.
Probably, yeah.
God, 12 years ago.
Yep.
But Make a Strip was a good time. I wish I could have seen AC Inc. Unfortunately, AC Inc. this year was on Thursday.
Oh, painful.
A little bit different from usually historically at East. As far as I know, it's always been on Sunday. This year they moved it to Thursday. I did watch it. I watched the VOD because I was super excited for the premise. Because they did like a PUBG Fortnite theme in that Jim was so pissed about Omen creating a clone of him.
Yeah.
He like sent him off to like a shadow world or whatever and dumped him on an island with 94 other people and they had to survive. And it was, and they even mentioned it in the second Q&A. I think it was a Q&A. Yeah, it must have been. Someone who works at Penny Arcade, I can't remember their name, because Mike was going over his ideas and he's like, I think I can make that. And like made a program where it had the map. And then like after a certain amount of time, of course, green flame started to come in. Like there was a circle.
Storm,
and then the screen, and they had to, every time they moved up a square, they had to draw an event card. And sometimes it would just be like grass. And other times it would be like, there's a shadow demon and you have to like take it out real quick because the flame's coming at you. And you can also, you can open treasure chests, like similar to what you'd find in Fortnite. They could trade items because like they started with nothing. They had no weapons, no nothing. They were like stripped of everything when they were dropped in. So like they had to find weapons in the first place, and they could find weapons. They could find garbage. Like Pat Rothfuss was hooked. He found a rock that kind of looks like a dog, and he like threw away weapons because he's like, I feel like this rock just really has something. And like by the end of it, like it just kept getting more and more like Mike was like, because Mike was the DM.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? It doesn't really look like a dog anymore to you. And like by the end of it, it's like, it just looks like a rock. It's like he held on to the thing the entire time and it did nothing. But like you could pick up like kind of like Fortnite, a gray weapon, a green weapon, a gold weapon, you know, it would depend on how strong it is. So like, and each character had like, you know, there was mauls for Omen. There was like staves for Strix, swords for Viari, and bows for Morgaine. And if they were using a weapon that they were proficient with, they got like more of their abilities back, like their spells and stuff. And it was like, you know, shitty ass bow, strong bow, like stuff like that. And they had like durability, so you could only use them a certain amount of times and then they break. So it was brilliant. The cards were like made up all. It was gorgeous. It was.
I can't wait to watch it. Oh man, it's out now, right?
It is. Yeah, I believe it's on YouTube as well. It ran. My only criticism of it ran a little long. It was super fun for the first like 45 minutes, but I found myself getting a little bored. But Mike is such a good DM. I love Mike DM. He's so enthusiastic. Razor wit, like him and everyone, they just bounce off each other. I love Rothfuss. He blew me away at Unplugged. I've become a huge fan of his since then. It was a lot of fun. I really would have liked to catch that, but unfortunately we just weren't there early enough or we didn't get there on Thursday. Right. But you can go check that out. I believe, like I said, it's on YouTube. As far as other panels, we didn't get to there was one that I wanted to check out about speedrunning. Unfortunately, I did miss that one, which is kind of a bummer. The panel selection, as always, it was very diverse. There's pretty much something every day that you could check out. I tried to look every day to be like, what would I want to go see? It's just so tough when there's everything else.
But there's games to play.
There's everything else. And it can be really hard to commit sometimes. But I really recommend checking out a Megathon, at least one round. It's a lot of fun. And just maybe pencil off something that might intrigue you. Like I said, you know, speedrunning caught my eye. Why not? You might meet someone you admire too. You know, you never know.
Yeah, they did a good job with panels. Like you said, there was diversity. It was just time that kept me from going out to too many. But
they had the concerts and said they had Power Glove. Haven't seen Power Glove since we saw them way back at the infamous MC Chris show, or the MC Chris tour. That was the show before the show. Yeah, because the next night was when all the shit went down. Right, the next show.
I think so.
Yeah. That was when we got introduced to Richie Branson. Richie Branson should make a PAX appearance. That'd be dope.
Should.
God, I love Richie Branson.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of fun overall. Check this stuff out. Some thoughts on PAX. Some generic thoughts I have. Do you have anything else on panels? Cool. Some thoughts. Went by so fast. This is without a doubt, the fastest PAX has ever gone by in the history of PAX. It just flew. And I believe we were there later on Saturday than normal. Like, I know a couple of us left early due to prior engagements. But me, Bob, and Ken hung out a little bit later. And I believe we were there until like 5:30-ish, more or less, which is a little bit later on Saturday. Sometimes we get kind of burnt out and we bail. Just because it's one thing if you know, like, oh, we have a hotel tonight. We can hang out. We're gonna be back tomorrow. We'll stay until midnight, whatever. Yeah. Whereas it's like I still gotta drive home. I want to, I want to get home at a reasonable hour. So you tend to kind of submit earlier. You know what I mean?
Give in.
Yeah. But it went by so fast, just painfully.
You should go more days.
I got hungry, Alex, for going for Thursday. Like I almost feel like we might have missed out. Like between AC Inc. and it didn't sell out. I don't think.
From what I hear, Thursday was the day to go.
Yeah.
Reddit was saying it was comfortable. It was calm. You just kind of walked around. Like from what I hear, Thursday was the jam.
So it becomes one of those where it's like,
let's think about next year.
Well, next year. And so normally we do these two. I might think Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I wouldn't mind because we already do the 2 hotel nights anyways.
Yeah. And we might just do it as an early drive up Thursday and then have it Thursday, Friday.
I think that might be something to consider. for next year, especially like 4 days of PAX. I mean, how is that bad?
It's weird to think that the more often we go, the less we feel like we get to, though.
Yeah.
Like, because that's what it felt like. I had so many more things I could have done. And we stopped at like 2:30 p.m. because we were going to leave at 3 o'clock, the initial crew that was going to take off. And it was just this like, I have to stop now because the next thing I'm going into would take too long. I could have jumped into, easily could have ran until 5 or 6 and then come back the next day. Because again, barely touched video games.
Oh.
Like I lived in board game town this year, and
maybe next year we could even do like on Friday we're gonna play board games. On Saturday we're gonna play video games, something like that. You know, maybe even it might force us to take a new approach to it.
Yeah,
or we could just do what we always do and play all the and say we're gonna play everything.
Well, and there's a thought to like having some strategy in the way that we split up potentially to try to cover more ground. Gosh, there was so much. And again, like I don't think we would grab food and then just be gone.
Yep.
So, did you have more general thoughts?
A couple more that I had here. I wanted to quickly touch on the difference between East and Unplugged, because my last past experience was Unplugged. It was almost kind of weird being there this year because Unplugged is, and this is why I really recommend it, and I'm going to try and drag Joe to it this year. It was so personal. Like I felt like I saw everyone. Like, oh hey, I'm gonna go check this out. And like, I saw a bunch of like Penny Arcade people. Like, oh hey, I know who they are. Like, that's really neat. They put on a really cool show. You know, I'm here in the tabletop area looking at games, and the main stage is right there because the main stage was like on the floor because there was no like main theater. It was just kind of sectioned off. And let's go hit up the main stage. What's on the main stage? And we can watch this. We can watch this. Like it felt a lot more. It's also a much smaller show. It felt a lot more personal. So when I was at East, it was almost kind of jarring, in that like it's like, no motherfucker, you're on your own, you know. But unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to check out Super Art Fight. Probably should have brought that up during the panels. But from what I saw on the internet, it looks like they had a very successful show. Mad props to those guys. Their Kickstarter was just successfully funded. My money was taken, so I'm excited to get the thing in return. But they did have their first ever bout at PAX East. It was the Baron against the Angry Zen Master, Jamie Noguchi.
I love those guys so much.
I really do. I didn't see any. They were the only people I didn't run into. I ran into everyone that I would have known at PAX at some point, except the Super Art Fight guys. It sucked, man.
But we really did, and it was spontaneous. Like I didn't look for any friends.
Yeah.
They just showed up.
They just we bumped, which is. When you see how many people are at PAX, to just randomly bump into one person.
Right. We were standing after Friends Like These, and we were waiting for, I think, Kevin to finish up or something like that. And then you were like, oh, look, it's Vicky and Allie.
Yeah.
And like her whole consort came through. There was another time we were going through, leaving the outside the tabletop area, and I think we're going for food. And you're like, oh, it's Vela.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yep. We were about to head for food, and Vela he was literally just in front of me.
Yep.
And he was looking for a picture of Alex.
And I don't know how we came across the Herricks, but I magically found you guys in the Herricks. Were just there.
We found the Herricks at the merch booth, buying merch. Real quick, they had some dope pin sets this year.
God, I love the PAX 2018 pin set. Yeah,
I have never bought a PAX East pin set before because, like, I figure I'll buy it online if I really wanted one or something like that. I caved and bought 2 sets this year. I bought the main core pin set with the Jim and Omen 8-bit pins, the Green Flame pin, and the PAX East 2018. And I also bought the gender pronoun set, which was designed by Gavin at Penny Arcade. It was kind of like his baby, which they actually sneak peeked. I saw it like a week before because Dave was live streaming on the Penny Arcade Instagram, just like showing Mike and Jerry playing a video game. And then it turned into like an office tour because like... Dave was like, hey, Gabe or Mike, say something for the camera. And Mike was like, give me fruit snacks. So then it turned into Dave hopping on his skateboard because that's what you do in the office there, apparently. And he skateboards to the kitchen and gets fruit snacks. And then like they sneak peeked a shot of the pronoun set, which was really cool. But it's like gender pronouns like he, him, she, her, they, them that you can wear. so people would know what proper pronoun to address you by. And it also came with the PAX logo, but with a rainbow background on it, which was the selling factor for me. The pronouns are cool, but the logo really, I was like, yeah, just take my money. Just here it is. So I got those 2 pin sets. They had they had the foam dice. They brought back scarves this year. I almost bought the Imagine a Dark t-shirt.
Yeah.
It came real close.
What was it?
They have a new shirt. It's all black
with
like a lighter black and bright, like gray.
Yeah.
And it says Imagine a Dark t-shirt. Like as if you were to imagine you stand before the cave of tits. It's one of their new shirts. I almost snagged one of those, but ultimately I just went with some pins.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Herrick was thinking of me.
Yeah.
Sent me some pictures of a murder management card game.
Of course.
Called Serial Thriller, where you play as a murderer, compete against other murderers. And it's not out yet. There's still some work to be done on it. They're still getting worked on.
R&D and such.
Yeah. But it was given keep an eye out for a Kickstarter soon. So
right.
Yeah.
You have the image up right now, and I love the art style.
Yeah, this one is a chef versus like a lumberjack, or if he wasn't a lumberjack.
As you would.
Yeah. A chef to kill and landfill.
Yeah, it's hard to describe. I'll pull up the website at some point because it's very funny.
Yeah. Like there's different like victims you could try and kill, and there's other items. Which, I mean, there's not too much to go on right now because they're still working on a lot of kinks. They're still designing a lot of things, but yeah. Thanks for Dave Herrick for thinking on me.
Dave Herrick, man, the Herricks in general.
Them Herricks.
Dave and Michelle.
They are so sweet.
2 of the nicest. I had a couple notes here. The main floor, lots of Fortnite. You walk on the floor, bam, Fortnite right in your face. They had like a stage set up where you can go up. I don't know what the setup was. I don't know if there was a tournament or something, but like one person would get up and they'd play Fortnite and they'd be broadcast on the screen, and then a guy would be commentating, "Oh, hey, you got the whatever shot in the thing, and the guy's dead. You win."
They built a fort. Yeah.
Yep, a lot of Fortnite. A lot of lounge areas. Like previously touched on Twitch, Facebook. Kind of areas where you could sit and chill.
Did these come with charging stations too?
I didn't.
Because imagine everyone sits in those things and just sits on their phone.
Yeah, I never go into them because I'm too busy doing fun stuff.
Yeah.
Who needs a charging station when you get like awesome portable chargers from your friends?
Exactly. Which, did I end up handing my lightsaber one to one of you guys?
Not me.
Yeah.
No?
I think I lost it, and I'm very upset because I pulled it out of my bag and I went, "Hey everyone, I have a spare charger because I bought my new diesel one." I was like, but I have another one in case you guys need it.
And some strangers with thanks.
And I can see myself putting it back in the bag, but it's gone.
You got a lot of pockets. They'll show.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. But PAX overall, and again, we're kind of usually we do 2 episodes, but we're cramming this into one this year to keep everyone entertained. Overall, amazing show. Saddest time of my life is driving home because I know it's still happening. In that way, and I'm going the opposite way. I'm going home, and it makes me sad. But we can do some grades. We usually grade it. PAX, it's kind of always the same.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think PAX has ever gotten below an A-. At least from the 3 of us, me, you, and Colin.
Yeah,
I can't remember what Alex gave it last year.
I don't remember either.
Oh my god. What kind of review is this?
Do you have your letter already?
I mean,
do you want me to go? You want to go?
I mean, mine's an A.
It's an A for me too.
Straight up.
And maybe I could call it the best PAX, and I know I've given it A's in earlier years as well. It was so much fun, and it was one of those. It's daunting to go with so many people, but I felt like we had such an interesting balance this year too, where because we were so large of a number, like we split off very easily. And ended up being a lot of fun for that. I spent a lot of time with Kevin, who this was his first PAX, and he's a huge board game dude. And he just wanted to play everything. And it was fun having somebody like that. Got to see a lot and do a lot. So the only thing I wanted was more PAX. How do you give a lower grade when all you wanted was more of it?
I did have that in my notes as, the difference that I don't know if I'm using this word correctly, like the dichotomy of the group, between the video gamers and the tabletop gamers, and like Ken is he's very focused on fighting games. He wanted to play the fighting games, things like that. It was
Bob's eye for design alone.
Yeah. You should have saw Bob at the Wormwood booth.
He was so fun to walk around.
We didn't even talk about the Wormwood booth.
Yeah.
It was just, I couldn't wait. And like, it took us a while to get him there too.
Yeah.
Because like, let's head to Wormwood. Oh, hey, there's Vicky and her group. Cool. Okay, we're done. Let's head to, that game looks rad. What did Joe find? Okay, let's head to, and we finally got to Wormwood like 2 hours later. Mm-hmm. And I was like, Bob, behold. And he dove right in. He was like he immediately started talking to people like about wood, because apparently Bob does woodworking. I had no idea.
He knows everything.
He's a son of a bitch, that Bob. Big thanks. I do want to give us
another thing with Bob too. He ended up taking some amazing pictures, which I know you're going to be sharing around. So yeah, in his many talents, Bob will tell you how terrible of a photographer he is. And so the one thing that Bob isn't good at is recognizing his own talent. And he took some awesome pictures. JR, I know you have a bunch of pictures to throw out there too.
Yep, yeah. He did give me some of the pictures that he took, and was kind enough to supply permission. I'll be posting those along with the photos that I took, so you can go and check those out. I do want to give a very specific shout out to Bob for not only being just all in all one of the nicest and kindest people that I know. I guess I have to thank you, Alex, for introducing me to him. Mm-hmm. But he was also, he gave me impromptu like photo lessons, like in the middle of one of the largest gaming conventions in the world, and there were a couple times where I walked up to him with my camera and I was like, Bob, see my picture? How do I make it not do that? And like, he'd show me, this, and this is why this happens. And like, just the impromptu photo lessons, like, I kind of take the same photos every year. And so I'm trying to get better at that, and then take new photos and different photos. And I think he was instrumental to taking that step. Mm-hmm.
I've just been lucky that he's been willing to hang around.
Right? He's like, I almost felt, it's like, I'm sorry, man. I feel like I'm just a big loser. But he's just the nicest guy. And
we're frequently blessed with his presence.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was that way for this trip.
He is, yeah. It's going to be tough if we ever have to do a show without Bob again. Just because
don't talk this way.
I don't want to, but I don't know where his head's at. He's such an enigma. But Enigma, Edward Nigma, Batman Forever. So thanks again, Bob. That was absolutely rad. I can't thank you, man. I thank you enough for all the help and just the general good company that was provided. Back to grades. Again, I gave it an A. Beautiful show, beautiful people. For us, mainly drama free. I heard there was a Ace Ventura cosplayer.
Did you see him? I saw him.
I saw him. Did you hear about him?
I
got removed from the show.
Oh.
Well.
Yep. Apparently he was touching people.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyways, A for the show for me. I reached out to Colin about a half hour ago, asked him what his grade was. Colin did supply an A as well, with an exclamation point. I'm not sure if that's a variation of a letter grade, but Colin's looked like he had a great time. He apologized. Regrettably, he could not join us tonight, but we are thinking of you, man. A lot of fun. Joe, thank you for giving us your Tuesday night and talking with us about PAX. My throat hurts, which means I talked a lot, which means I said a lot, which means there was a lot to say.
We basically did 2 back-to-back. So
Yeah. That's too long. We had a long one with Matt last week. We got we just got the content, man. Content's king. We're gonna let Alex go to bed. This was a lot of fun. Big thanks to everyone at PAX for putting on such a great show. My boys, my PAX boys, and also Ken, Kevin, and Bob for joining us this year. A lot of fun. Everyone I bumped into. I feel like I just won an award. Just kidding. Can you play me off? Or just start the music. Sing it. You're not going to sing it. Okay. Oh, God, my time's up. I just want to thank the Academy and all the... You're doing Jurassic Park.
That wasn't bad, though, right?
That was good.
That was good.
That was pretty
really
point,
good.
Yeah.
Thanks. I wasn't going to do it, so...
All right. I believe that is going to do it. PAX was great. 2 Unplugged. Or maybe South. Who knows? My brother-in-law lives in the same city as PAX South.
Yeah, just go to that. Just no, it's not
just
next.
drive there.
That already happened.
What?
South already happened, didn't it?
South is in January?
Well, it'll happen again within like 364 days. So.
In theory.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Yeah. Hey, stop.
You stop. Okay. Joe, thanks again. Super fun.
Absolute pleasure.
That's going to do it, I guess. So until next time, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
I'm Joe.
And this has been episode 318 of Opinions May Vary.